I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Manlius Planning Board for July 8th, 2024. Our meeting is in person and also hybrid with virtual online as well. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from June 24th, 2024. Does anybody have any comments or edits? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Rich, second by Arnie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Judy abstains. Okay, so the minutes are approved for June 24th. Okay, the next item on our agenda is for the Aaron Evans Inn at 7206 East Genesee Street in Fayetteville. The tax map is number 092.06-04.1, and this is for the special use permit renewal for the outdoor dining porch. Doug, we had to check on the site plan, for an approved site plan on file?
We did, and there is a existing site plan dated December 21st, 2020, and it was developed by QPK. The site plan looks to be in order and is consistent with what's out there. We've heard back from the codes officer. His recommendation is to approve the special use permit to get to the site. Seems no issues at the site.
Okay, all right, so the site plan remains in effect, and I'd look for a motion to approve the special use permit. A motion made by Don, second by Aaron, all in favor? Is there some period on
Some
it?
discussion.
Oh.
We reviewed this, and I know there's some comments about the site plan and other things, which really doesn't apply to what we're looking at right now.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure the site plan was on file and then approved.
Yes, this is just for the outdoor.
Okay. And then, Don, in your motion, the special use permit for 7 years?
Yes.
Second by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for the special use permit, renewal for the Aaron Evans Inn for the outdoor dining porch. Okay, the next item on our agenda is James and Stephanie Nixdorf. This is, on the agenda for a public hearing for a 2-lot subdivision at 7884 Salt Springs Road in Duguid. Tax map number 096.08-32. So a couple things, we have received one letter from the public, and I know that Lisa, we got something from Rob stating that he would not advise a driveway cut on Duguid. And the applicant was able to get a survey with a road cut on Salt Springs, but we will be contacting the DOT for approval on that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we can move forward in opening the public hearing. Lisa, did you advertise the notice for the public hearing? I did. Okay. Okay, first, I need a motion, or unless anyone wants to hear the reading. Okay, all right, so motion for Judy, to waive the public hearing,
I'll second that.
second by Rich.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Did you have an open motion before? Second it.
So we're gonna waive the reading of the public hearing, so we've got a motion made by Judy, second by Rich, all in favor for that? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion carries, and now I need a motion to open public hearing.
So.
Made by Rich,
I second.
second by David, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. Do we need to we will wait on seeker.
But we're gonna wait on seeker until we get that information, but we'll go to the public hearing and we can keep it open.
Okay, yeah, so we'll keep the public hearing open, we get that DOT in order to make our secret determination. Thank you. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on the 2-lot subdivision on Salt Springs Road in Newgate? Okay, sir, if you would step up to the podium and please tell us who you are and where you live.
Good evening, I'm George Holtz, I live at 5179 Newgate Road. I'm a lifelong resident of Fayetteville, attended FM school system. And my parents built their house at that location back in 1962. I have all of the deed and survey paperwork from back then. My next door neighbors are here, David and Ann Mullen. They also have their deed and paperwork. The concern I'd like to raise is that in reviewing the subdivision survey map, which I'd like to have here, please, if you can. The other ones,
I can only do one at a time, so do you want to do,
this
you want the
the
other one?
subdivision map. Can you expand it?
I can.
We can't see my property on it. Essentially the map was the entire, there we go, okay. So. Okay. This is the map from the planning board website. I reviewed it to see how it would relate in terms of the property boundaries for my home located here at 5179 Dewey Road. And for the Mullins home, that's 5185 Dewey Road. And I found a discrepancy that needs to be addressed. You'll see that the property, which is undeveloped, leads back behind mine and my neighbor's home, and then there's a 50-foot strip of land that makes its way up to Judy Road there. On the other side are the Krugers, Peter and Robin Kruger. I noticed that the numbering here for my property on this map does not correspond to what is on the survey from 1962. In that this, you can't read it, but it reads 85, 25, 18. Whereas my parents' survey reads 84, 50. Now, these two pieces of property used to be contiguous. They were sold by Mr. Cromie, who's related to the Nick stores long ago in 1956. The Mullins have the paperwork from the Cromie purchase, and the Mullins paperwork, which encompasses this entire piece of property, also has a numbering system for the southern boundary victim. It's different from the 2024 map for the subdivision, so which is in agreement with the 62 numbering system for my parents' property. So this led me to think that potentially some adjustments have been made to the positioning of my property, and potentially that of the Mullins as well. And I saw that Trell Company had been involved in the surveying of this map. And so therefore, I contacted Gary Cottrell and visited him at his office. And can we go to the next?
Which one, yours?
Yeah. You told me something extremely surprising. Got a little bit more, right, a little bit more. That's good. This is a blow up of the region that I just described, in which my property is located here. 50-foot wide span of property leading from the road is here. It's labeled as John Fromme, who originally owned it prior to the next door. And then you'll see that Walter Spotter is here. He was a neurologist at Upstate Medical Center. And owned a very large property to the south here that is currently owned by the Cruisers. These property lines were established nearly 70 years ago. There's never been any question concerning the validity. And I strongly believe that the next door's property lines are rock solid. The property that Spofford occupied has been bought and sold many times. There's never been any question about the validity of these property lines. But just to be careful, I visited Gary Cottrell's office and asked him to confirm that these dimensions of property line placements for my property would not be affected by the dimensions of the subdivision property. Just double checking. He told me that he had done some surveying down towards the south end of Duty Road, and then while working up, he had identified new properties. And that when he got up to this point here, he claims that he discovered that the Fromme's now next door southern boundary line was wrong. And that he told me that it needed to be moved north, and that you're never going to believe this. To compensate, he was indicating that the next door's property would need to be moved onto my property. So it's just kind of a panicky moment. But moving it north, moving this one property line north, might explain the discrepancy in numbering systems for locations of property lines as I just described. Now, I just can't believe that Cottrell is correct about this. These properties are rock solid. I don't know how you could possibly even have the permission to consider moving a property with line like that. So I'm particularly concerned that he told me that property would be encroaching on my property. How much he didn't say. He also didn't say how he had determined that the historic property line would be moved north. There's just no factual information to support this. But if worst case scenario, if the Fromme or historic property were moved north, you can see that there's only 54.9 feet of space between my garage and this northern borderline of the next door Fromme property. And I certainly wouldn't want this property overlapping my highway.
How much did he say it was? What was the difference? Is it inches?
He hasn't said. I'm currently having him do a property survey of my property. And he hasn't provided me the numbers. And I've just been waiting. So I can't tell you that. But I just want to alert you to what he has told me. And the one discrepancy in terms of the numbering system indicating the position of the property lines. And then what he has told me verbally, which seems to me to be completely impossible. My property line is, and also that of the Mullins, is defined by the northern line here from the next door. From, if there is any validity, the southern border of the next door property to the north, so that will be an issue that the next doors will have to address with the Krugers, because Krugers would be infringing on the next door's property. However, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But this is a 2-lot subdivision that we're looking at.
Yes.
And there's proper frontage on both lot 1 and lot 2. And if there's discrepancy with the lot lines and who owns what, that really has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that lot 1 has anything to do with this. I'm arguing that there are issues here with lot 2 that need to be addressed.
And I see on this that we have a survey that says it's 50 feet. If it's not 50, if it needs to be moved or whatever, that has nothing to do with this board. That is something between 2 owners that own land in that area, and there's nothing we can really do with that.
Would you permit the surveyor to infringe on the property of the next doors?
I have a survey map that shows what they believe, and it was dated 2024.
Yeah.
If that's incorrect,
It is incorrect.
then, okay, that's something that I think you need to take up.
The numbers indicate it's correct, incorrect. And
Okay.
Gary himself has told me face to face that he claims that this borderline is wrong. And
Okay.
Gary is the person who
I'm just saying,
surveyed the subdivision property. And it's my understanding, speaking with Stephanie Instor, that Gary did not tell her about this.
I'm just saying, I'm not a surveyor. We don't have surveyors here.
Yes,
And then if there's an issue with this survey that is incorrect, that's something that needs to be taken up
well,
outside of this board. Jamie, if I'm wrong, tell me.
I think that in this case, since there is a survey being commissioned by Gary Cottrell, and I will call him as well,
Okay.
I speak to him frequently about things. Because now we're going to have a subdivision map that shows this certain boundary line, and then it's official and it's filed. Then you're gonna have something a little different. If it is, I think we should try to clear it up, if we can. Also, this idea of possibly having access on this 50-foot strip is going to be an interesting issue. So I think we should try to clear it up, especially because we're not sure why this was capped, this 50-foot. And was it to get, access and to go try to have access up that area?
So if I answer your question?
Sure.
It was kept just because Jim's grandparents, they owned all of that property. They also owned a property across the street on the corner of Duguid, sold that house, built the house that we own right now. But they wanted to keep the access because they thought it would be conducive to people that needed to go on the property and work, if anybody was gonna do brush clearing, or maybe one day if they needed to have an access point for sewer. That was something his grandmother considered but never did, so she kept her septic. And that was really it. It was sort of more of a legacy access in case her daughter or Jim and his brother wanted to do something further with the property, which we don't, and we haven't. That was really all of us. But so I also met with Gary today because Dr. Holtz reached out to me via email about a week ago and expressing his concerns. And he told me today, when he gave me this updated map for you all, that there were no discrepancies. There's also a survey on file in Onondaga County from, I think, 1995 that corresponds to this. But we obviously want all of the neighbors to be happy. So I'll make sure that we go with all the records of doing this also. It's clerical error. and he said that the boundaries were not changed at all. He also did say to keep in mind that road widths and other things have changed since 1956 when the Frommies originally had the property. And we're gonna do a deep dive into it, but we didn't think that it would be so impactful regarding subdivision.
All right, well, I spoke with my attorney today. So Matthew Kerwin at the Barton Lehman law firm, he advised me to ask you to postpone moving forward with the approval of this subdivision because if the border lines of the subdivision are in fact flawed, your approval might solidify their legality. So we certainly can't be doing that.
So
That's the whole student page, and the surveyor to survey your property as well. Say earlier.
Yes, he hasn't got that.
All right, so there will be some body of work reflecting.
Yes, I suspect his survey will be identical to what he's contending here, where the next door's property line is to the north.
You may have an issue with that, which I guess I
No,
agree some of the Richard that
yeah,
I don't
have
see
an
how
issue
this
with it.
board should not be filing a map that is not
Yes.
suitable or defensible, but we are not a board that can fix this.
Yes.
And
You'll notice that this really doesn't impact me directly, assuming that the land is not moved. My property line is defined by the northern border going across the property, whereas the problem exists here on the southern border. And so the encroachment is, if it exists, is coming from the intruder property onto the front property. So I would not anticipate litigation.
whatever the solution is, my assumption is that two landowners will have to work that out. When we worked it out, come back to us.
Yes,
Let's proceed.
which two landowners?
Well, maybe four,
Yeah,
yes, at least.
we have to keep the public hearing open anyway, so you've got a couple weeks to,
I'm not sure what I would do.
to get the survey of your property.
But that's not the problem. The problem is the survey of the subdivision property.
your property is sitting next to
Where
it,
is
though?
it?
It's just, your property is sitting next to it, but you're saying that because it's been, you're claiming it moves everything over? Is
Well, I
that-
don't see how a property can be moved, placed on somebody else's property. That southern lot, that northern line right there is the legal property line for my property. The problem lies to the south, where Gary's point, there is a mistake. So I don't know that
Well,
it's my responsibility.
Well, were you getting a survey of your property though? Was he gonna-
Just as a caution,
Okay.
and it was during my discussions with him about that he alerted me to, evidently he has changed the positions of property lines up and down different roads, without anybody knowing it, while incorporating this type of change.
So I'll talk to him. Again, we're a surveyor, I'm not a surveyor, but the way I understand it is sometimes where they start their magnetic north, can change from surveyor to surveyor over the years. Just saying, that's what I'm told. So I'll talk to him, and see what's happening on this point. The other thing, I know that there was some concern about that 50-foot right of way, you're not proposing an access point, and this board might possibly consider that, as part of this subdivision, that there be no access there. If that's, something for us to
Well,
consider.
I don't know if it's 50 feet or 25 or.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Or where it is exactly, so
Well, but
I figure it out.
I guess what I'm saying is, can the planning board assure me that I will not lose my property and not be able to gain access to my house down my driveway if this property is shifted to the north?
That's what we're gonna find out, that's what we're gonna talk to Gary about, that's what we're gonna try to figure out.
Have there encountered situations where properties are moved? So it's very worrisome.
Yeah.
I think we have to be clear that we don't solve property line, with individual owners. That's not our,
We're interested in the accuracy of the map,
Right.
and that's what I'm gonna be talking
Well,
about.
Alright,
if you're correct about that, and if this were to move north, then I would be forced to sue the meat stores. I don't want to do that. And if this mistake is accepted by the planning board and it's incorporated into the subdivision survey, then there's going to be a problem between the mixed stores and the Krugers.
I think what we've said, I
Yeah,
think what I've heard is that we're not gonna approve anything tonight.
no,
So what your concern is not relevant at this moment in time. When the property owners get the surveyors involved and come up with what's really there, then we have to make a decision.
I only came here to provide some information.
yeah, we're
I only
gonna,
came here to provide some information.
yeah, we're gonna look into it.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
is there someone else that wants to speak?
Yeah.
Please step up to the podium.
Just to pile on,
Just-
quick, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please step up to the podium.
Oh.
And I need to know, sorry, just a minute, I need
Hi.
to know your name. and where
David
you're-
Mullen, 5185, do good with my wife, and just to pile on for 2 seconds, and I'll be brief. We've got a survey from 1956. The one thing that hasn't shifted when you're talking about center lines, sidelines, whatever else, is our foundation. So the foundation of our house, we have a good measurement from there to the northern boundary. And instead of measuring from the south up, if we could go from north back based on a survey from 56, that should correct everything.
Do you have a copy of that survey?
Oh, why? Yeah,
Is that a single survey you have there?
yeah, but we got multiple copies. The Myers was great.
Or can I get a scan of it?
I don't have a scanner that's
Okay,
this big. You
Um,
can have this if you like it.
Okay.
All right,
Cause I'd like to talk, when I talk to Gary,
Yeah,
I'd have to have more
and-
information.
the other concern I have, and just because I don't know, is access from Salt Springs. My only concern is traffic, because everybody knows how many accidents we already have at Salt Springs and Duke. It's a weekly occurrence, and I'm worried about access with additional roads and or driveways, and that's my only concern, so.
And there's, yeah, that will come to us through DOT.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak about the next door two lot subdivision? Okay, Lisa, do we have anyone online? Okay, so this public hearing is staying open until the next meeting, through the next meeting, the 22nd.
We do a motion for that.
Do we need a motion?
Just want to keep it open, sure.
All right, sure, we'll take a motion, to keep it open.
Keep it, I'll make a motion, to
Okay.
keep the public hearing open until the next meeting.
Okay, Rich is making a motion to keep the public hearing open until July 22nd, and seconded by Aaron, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I do have the map, I'll just pass it around of what the survey that they brought tonight.
Okay.
Shows the potential, road access on Salt Springs. That they're gonna get DOT approved. Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is John and Katie Graves, and it's on the agenda for public hearing for a site plan and update of the current special use permit for Tracer Tech Indoor Driving Range at 6940 Chefs Corners Road, tax map number 041.01-08.1. And we have also received one letter from the public as well. And before we open the public hearing, the Minoa Fire Department has also sent something in that they are looking at the plans. And before we go through seeker, because we will go through seeker before the public hearing, Doug, do you have comments on the SWIP at all before we go through seeker?
I don't, I've been waiting until we get everything finalized, then I'll disclose.
Okay. So should we?
Sure.
Okay.
But at that point, I didn't make any other comments.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the secret questions. And we'll- Questions, will proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
Small, minimal.
Small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Small.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the
Yes.
proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Both those questions having been answered, no or small impact. A negative secret declaration for the project.
Okay. I'll take a motion for a negative secret declaration.
For a negative secret declaration for this project.
Okay, motion made by Aaron, seconded by Arnie. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for a negative secret declaration. Okay, now are there any other comments, or we will go to the public hearing?
I appreciate the changes that were made based on the conversations that we had and everything, and my comments are pretty minimal. They're related to the plant palette selected, and it might just be probably some simple changes, but first of all, it would be beneficial to have the scientific name as well as the common name on here. But Euonymus lattice or burning bush is on the DEC's list of invasive species and it's a regulated one, so that's something that we don't want to see, or I should say that I would like to not see. I've shared the references with Lisa and she can send them out or put them up if it's something you're curious about. The same thing for the what you call the Cleveland pear, which is a cultivar of the Iris california, which is like a Bradford pear. Those are under the same basic category, and they're also invasive species, and they're known for having wood and foliage and stuff like that. But I don't see this as a holdup to the project. There's plenty of other more native species or things that are less invasive that could be selected. So, and one other thing is, and I will catch this on every project because it's not always listed in the details because sometimes it's a spec item, but it's beneficial in our plant culture now to move away from the chemos because it's a resource that's not really renewable and a lot of you might not even be able to get it. So swapping that out in your planting mix or details would be something that is more environmental choice. That's all I got.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, Lisa, did you public notice of the public hearing? I did. Okay, anybody would like to hear the reading?
Reading the public.
Okay. I'll start. Motion made by Rich, seconded by Judy, all in favor? Okay, and would you like to present briefly before the public hearing?
Yep. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just go back to the beginning, just talk about the whole thing, introduce myself. Ed Reed, engineer for the applicant, John Graves, owner of the property. Just as a quick recap, Mr. Graves is proposing an 18,000 square foot indoor driving range, which is also going to have a restaurant in it, as well as an outdoor mini golf area. Parking is, there's a parking lot with access which comes off of Chef's Corners. On-site stormwater mitigation is proposed off to the east of the parking lot. In addition to this, as part of this application, John is also proposing a parking expansion down to the existing parking to the south associated with the golf course parking lot. We are not altering the access point down there. We're going to keep the curb cut the same. We're just going to come in and add some additional parking to the north. Also, our last meeting, we also agreed that we are not going to have any inter-property connections to, but between the two businesses. So there's going to be a distinct difference between the two.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions from the board before we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and take a motion to open the public hearing. Motion made by Aaron, second by David. All in favor? Okay. Public hearing is open. Is there anyone here to speak on the Tracer Tech indoor driving range? Yes, in the back. If you could come up to the podium and state your name and where you live.
I'm Brenda Bella. I live at 6883 Mineral Bridgeport Road. Just on the, when you're facing the golf course, I'm on the right, on the other side of the road. And right now my house is like a basin. I get flooded from both directions. And I really want to know what they're going to do to ensure that I don't get flooded more than I already am. There's only one culvert, which is a two-way culvert that's on my property to take care of all that water on that road. And this is very upsetting to me. And I don't believe that they're gonna be able to handle all the water compared to all the spill they're probably gonna put in.
Would you like to address some of the stormwater concerns or mitigation?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna show around that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, unless it's easier to pull it up. I don't know.
Yeah. Can I slide over here and I'll show you. So as part of this application, some of the permits, the other permits we have to get what they call a speedies permit from New York State DEC. And what that permit requires is that any additional flows generated from this project need to be attenuated on site or taken care of on site. So as part of this project, all of the proposed improvements ultimately are captured and they're diverted to this basin, which has been sized with outlet controls in it.
So then where's this basin gonna go?
Well, it's ultimately when it releases, there's a natural swale off over to the east.
So it's gonna go towards me.
But part of this application, what we're doing here, we have an obligation to attenuate these flows. So from this point right here, the flows leaving this development are going to be less than what exists right now. Based on, that's how we size this. So we size this and we provide outlet control on it to attenuate the flows associated with this development. So right here on the other side of this outlet structure, the water coming out of here, which captures all of the development, is going to be releasing water at a rate less than what exists there right now.
Are you talking about the culvert that goes under the road?
This is out over here. The culvert you're referring to is down further.
But
So this is gonna go into the creek, basically.
It goes this way and then takes off and ultimately goes up to the east.
because the overrun of the golf course goes through the culvert, comes over to my property, and it gets so high, and it comes back towards the golf course. So what I'm saying is, there's more coming in to my property.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to explain to you is that ultimately through this practice, there's gonna be less going to you because we size this basin to account for that. So if you have a big rainstorm and it hits the roofs, we capture it.
And sorry, can you talk, we had to turn the air on so we all don't die in here. That's okay, talk louder, speak louder.
So when you have a significant rain event, any rainwater that hits the parking lot and the building, and even the mini golf area is captured and diverted over to this basin, so that when it leaves here, you get a big storm event, it's all captured here, diverted through this basin and discharged out a structure off the backside of this basin. So that in that event, you don't have water that's not flooding, as if you don't have any control for this. We're controlling it by use of this basin.
Doug, would you be able to add as well, like, we've gone through the process of stormwater retention, because I understand your concerns for sure.
You probably, if you've ever been down that road, you'll know where it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
On that
and there's
farm.
better, yeah.
So my concern is, okay, too, okay, I know this is a little off topic, when they built Sensitive, okay, they probably did something similar. Since that building has been there, I get more water to that, from that side, instead of just from the crib. I'm getting it from both sides now, because it's coming from Sensi around back to my property and flooding my front on the other side.
Plus, I live right next to Sensi, our property butts up to them.
What is that?
It's that building, the throne building in Andrews, no, I don't.
Census.
Yes, Census, okay.
So they do have stormwater
We have a swamp
in play.
We now have a 300
Ma'am,
by over
Ma'am,
600 foot
I'm gonna
swamp.
wait to have you speak,
Okay.
sorry, afterwards, so we can, let's see what you,
Well, she brought it.
yeah.
My concern.
Yep.
We had, and so I can't believe that you guys can't do something. How do you expect one culvert to handle all this water?
Because it's not our one culvert. Our obligation is to attenuate outflows from this.
But eventually it's gonna come to me.
And the water that discharges from this point that comes to you is gonna be less than what goes there right now. is what
I
I'm
don't believe it.
That's what that is, right? What comes off the site has to be less than.
But if it's not, what if it doesn't happen?
So I've done all the calculations on this to show pre-developed and post-developed conditions, which includes all of this. It's, this basin is sized this way. It's designed a certain way, it's sized a certain way to attenuate those flows. To make sure that we're capturing everything. Really large flows.
And then if it doesn't go, what does that leave me? Again, I'm in an island with nobody to help me or take care of.
Well, it has to. It is calculation, it's design.
It's very hard.
I
It's
understand,
one thing on
it's a
paper.
wet area.
It's one thing on paper, okay? It's another thing, real life. Like,
And to back that up, like I said, we now have a 300 by at least 600 foot swamp. And it started out as a little tiny thing in the spring and it would dry up. But the more we get,
Excuse me,
the bigger
ma'am,
the swamp gets.
could you tell us your name and your address and address the board, please?
Linda DeWall, 7528 Calmer Road.
We want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that we've been there 52 years. We've never had any water behind our property, okay, until they built that building. And then, like I said, for a few years, it would get a little wet by the road down there on the Manila Bridgeport Road, Bishop's Corners Road. And look at the last few years, well, probably 15, it's become a swamp. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing every year.
I mean, I would like to just throw out there that that's unfortunate. But it's not this applicant's responsibility to solve drainage problems on your property.
It's not on my property, okay? I'm just saying that when they built that, who knows how that affected where the rainwater goes. And like she said, now, not only is it behind us, but it goes back down and around and floods the property back there in the woods where, you know, nobody sees it.
No, it comes up
When
to
you
mine,
say,
but
when they
anyways.
built that, what's
The
that?
sensitive
census,
The radar.
the radar
radar.
access facility.
The radar.
This is why
To
I'm
the
hesitant, because you're not gonna, are you, I mean, I try to, you got 250 pages in there, okay? And, I mean, I can't afford a lawyer to read it, all right? And I was like, I just see like you're gonna have swales by the road. What is a swale gonna do? I mean, really?
What we're talking about is capturing everything associated with this. There's nothing associated with this development that we aren't capturing and treating. We're not, it's all going to be captured and diverted. Everything
Also,
associated
work
with
on water quality. We have to work on water quality, the water.
Yeah, and
And how can you
Doug-
build something like this in a floodplain?
Doug is our planning board engineer, and he has reviewed their stormwater prevention plan and all of the calculations. And so for that piece of property, he has reviewed all of those, which is going to be less than what's there because they're mitigating it. Right now, there's nothing there on that side of the road catching
But
anything.
once you put filling, and you put buildings
So
in,
that's all part of the calculations that they do.
how can you build something like that in a floodplain?
It's actually not on the floodplain.
But the water's gonna come over the
So we've
floodplain?
already, we've paid attention to where it is and where the floodplains are and where the wetlands are. And we have certain buffers that have to be maintained, and they are being maintained, and Doug has reviewed all of that. So we are taking all of that into account, for sure. And
So
anything
if
that
I
they
get,
build
so if I
has to
get
make
more
it better.
water, what's my recourse?
It's not this project.
I would,
But it's okay for you to approve it, okay, and you're not giving me any guarantees. I don't care what he builds, I just don't want any more water.
That's not something that this project can change for you.
But, well, for this project, it's not going to be, they're managing everything that's happening on this project on this site. It's not going to cause, you have two engineers, at least minimally, and I know Doug consults with others, who've looked at the calculations, because it is a concern of this board, and they have looked at it over several months' time, actually. So, they're, all these reputable engineers who now have done the calculations and say,
Well, I'm
on
sure
this,
they, you know,
on this,
they
on
believe
this
in
site,
themselves and
right?
the numbers and everything.
Yep,
I'm
on
just
this-
talking real life here, because it's me, it's only, it's
Right,
gonna affect me.
And the only thing we can do is rely on the numbers, right, that we're given. See, I'm a lawyer, I do words and all the soft stuff. These guys get into the nitty gritty, and they have really delved into this because it was a major concern of this board that be handled. All the wetlands were looked at, and we hear that. If they had not done that, I would stop everyone now and say, you gotta go back and do that. But it has been done. And hopefully, I don't know, Ed is saying it may be better than it was even from this side. It's an improvement from what I understand. So, and the chair is saying that you've been heard. And it's been managed to an engineering degree, right? To not somebody's fault, right?
And because it's supposed to be less water, so there's no talk about trying to change the culvert or put in another culvert or to address.
Not at this time, like that's it.
Right.
He's
There's
going
gonna be less.
to bring down less water. The rate at which the water comes off the site, less than. It's his responsibility.
I'll be the first one.
Thank you very much, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on the Tracer Tech indoor driving range? Anyone online, Lisa? Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Close.
By Rich to close the public hearing, second by David, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, public hearing is closed. Okay. So, still wanna do a full review of the SWIP and get us your comments? Okay,
So we'll be. Usually
Yeah.
see what conditions we have on the specific permit and so.
we'd like to hear your comments and then put together.
Well, I think we're gonna put together a resolution, we're gonna be very specific about everything that is here, because there's also
Yeah.
the, the special permit, make sure we don't have any conditions on it and so forth, so we'll work on that between now and the next meeting.
Any other comments or questions for the board? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, thank you. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the A&E and S&Y Center. It's for a public hearing and site plan, for the med spa behind it's tax map number 086.01-03.9. And I know we've got people here, we have the applicant. I'd like to ask our planning board engineer, Doug Miller, to, if he can go through some of the comments and questions that he has based on review of everything.
So, to Valerie's point, well, we received our packets, hard copies did not have, the architectural level. So, Anthony indicates that he sent them electronically, they had the wrong dates on the drawings. But when they were distributed, they weren't distributed.
Is the architect drawing?
Yeah,
Yes.
so we have them now, but we did not have them.
So
in time for
what he provided were two drawings. One says south elevation and one for the area. So four elevations. Drawings he sent all over.
My understanding, delivered hard copies. The architect called me today and said that they did not give a revision date, so that added to the confusion. But
Yeah.
they delivered hard copies.
Okay.
Plus
Yeah.
electronic copies.
Okay.
And we did have the hard copies, it turns out, so that was on our end, but yeah, the revision date definitely was a source of confusion in reviewing, because, it's the same date as the previous plans. But I know Doug has comments on all of that anyway, that he would like to see and have us do a review.
Okay.
So some of the things we were looking for and when I talked to you about a couple weeks ago was finding that elevation with site plan drawings. Or it was not the scale, one of the drawings just shows. A dimension of 40 feet, where it doesn't show grade elevation with the sidewalks back. Really, it's possible to get about materials of construction, color palette, signage, it looks like they're and we signs. Most things they do what we do looking for.
There are no tenants. There's entrances.
Oh, no, it's
Can you
a.
speak up, can you speak up and come to the
Speak up a little bit.
podium, sorry.
Sure.
Thanks.
Because his drawings that he sent over said tenant A, tenant B, tenant C, tenant D. Right? Yes.
It says tenant sign,
Yeah, tenant sign or tenant.
and there's multiple.
And all the signs need to be taken off. Every single one.
Well, it's a little unclear as to whether, to me, as to whether the signs that are on the architectural drawings are actual sign submissions that we should review, because it says like, it says tenant or it says med spa, and I don't think that's the official signage, correct?
Yeah, so it's gonna be one, I'm the sole owner of AAV, it's gonna be a med spa and comprehensive wellness center. When we first started this project in September of 2021, our first meeting, we had some tenants that were gonna be available within 12 to 18 month period. We're obviously way beyond that. So that initial drawing where we had tenants on there, we did have tenants that were going to sign at that location. But as we move forward, I'm now having physicians joining me, so they're entranceways, but they're not going to be tenants.
His floor plans and tenants.
Understood?
The one of the other entities. Well, I mean, just clean that up.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
so-
So we got the first approval, there were only tenants, right?
But the one I looked at this afternoon was online.
You can just take the tenant right off. It's just,
Yeah, so
it's just,
so we have to pick up.
And I guess when I put like the monument sign out front, is that official, we should be?
so that has not changed since the very, very first edition 3 years ago. It's
And
the
they
same.
asked us to add that in to make that complete, I think was a request of the board, so we put that into the site plan component.
So if your package for submission is including signs, monument signs, wayfinding signs on the property, signs on the building, signs for your, for all of your tenants or whatever you want to call them. We either need to see all of that in this package, or there needs to be none and you need to come back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
We prefer to do them.
if we can,
We prefer to do them
the
together.
site plans refer to, the sign, it says proposed monument sign location, refer to architect drawings for additional information, but the architect drawings that we received just have monument sign 2 by 12 equals 24 square feet. We need to see a lot more detail on those, including
Okay.
lighting, all of that stuff. And my comments were the same standing from the previous submission, which were that, for the architecturals, the drawings that you provided here don't represent, I think this is what Doug was talking about, I couldn't hear very well. They don't represent what the site actually looks like with the building situated, so, we spoke to the architect, I think we talked to him when he was here, and he understood what we were looking for, so, you know, these trees are on the site plan, and none of the walls that are on the site plan are on here. So in order for us to even look at this, it
Yeah,
has to
it's matched
represent the whole site that you're seeing through this image. Otherwise, it's not an accurate representation. And the same thing goes for the plantings, you know, when we look at the plantings in this picture, they aren't the same plantings that are on the planting plan. And that's a very big deal as far as how things are perceived, and how they're approved for that matter. You know, so those are kind of big ones. And while I'm taking my turn, I will say that, I see that there was an additional detail provided, showing the sections through the basin.
Yes.
And it's got stone, fabric, and then soil. And I get that, and I get why you're doing it. But it's still, the problem is that the formal bay filter treatment for water quality is happening at the end of the site. So all the parking lot water that is going to these basins has not been treated for water quality.
Right.
And so there may be a little bit of filtering that happens, but so potentially parking lot water, which is some of the dirtiest water, is going into these basins and getting straight into the ground. And we would like, and Doug can speak more about this, but we usually like to see the quality happen before the infiltration or the, you know, release of the site. So those were my only real comments. I see that you, looked at some of the other stuff and I appreciate that.
Okay. Can I go through the site plan? Do you want to take the time to go through the site plan?
Yeah,
So
that's
you-
fine. Ladies, sorry, if we could, it's very hard to
Can I
hear
ask you
tonight.
a quick, before you go through the site plan,
Sure.
quick question. I don't recall, but on your plan, it's, SP1. It says current zoning RA, proposed zoning neighborhood shopping. What is the zoning at this time?
Changed, the zoning was changed before us. Neighborhood shop.
It is neighborhood shopping.
That needs to be fixed on the data block.
That, yeah.
The data block on the front says that in current zoning is RA, proposed zoning is neighborhood shopping.
That's because it addresses the variance issue that we talked about before you gave the variance, they did a zone change and you did some setback variances.
You need to adjust that. Yes, we did that change now.
Okay. Anything else?
I know
The reason I raise that is because if you're gonna be renting out space to tenants, it needs to be the neighborhood shopping. It doesn't work in RA.
Right. I think we all get it, that it's neighborhood shopping, so that's the zone.
Okay, I just saw that and I
Okay.
couldn't remember.
I looked to see if it had been changed yet, and I noticed that it hadn't. Yeah. I know it seems like some of these things as we go along are getting addressed and we're moving on from them or whatever, but we need to see the drawing sets keep up and be submitted in full each time.
So one of the issues regarding tenants, when I started the project 3 years ago, I had tenants.
Could you speak up?
Yep, sure. So we started this project in September of 2021. That was my first meeting here. And when we brought renderings, I think the following meeting in October, there were tenants, but there was a plastic surgeon. There was a general surgeon that was going to be doing injections and whatnot. We were going to get into physical therapy. So those tenants I did have that were going to join and rent space alongside my vet spa. But that was 3 years ago, right? I've talked to them over the last 20 months or so, and they still see that there's no building there. So they've signed leases, they've moved on. So now there's no tenants. I'm the only one occupying the space. As you know, it's gotten small. We modified the footprint. We got rid of the lower level. So when we got our first approval process 18, 20 months ago, we had tenants, larger space, there was a downstairs, all that has changed. No tenants and the downstairs is no longer theirs. Just making a modification of the previous approval, that's all.
So, so I understand that, thank you for the explanation. I think, so now we need to see that all reflected in what is submitted. Because again, it's confusing because we're seeing tenant, specifically like on the floor plan, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's got tenant A, B,
Yep.
C, B. And so we just want to understand what we're looking at
So
for sure.
as
And
we
also that the approval is
We wanna
consistent,
approve,
right?
right?
Like
Yeah.
when we're not here anymore, someone says, what is this?
Yep.
Would it be better to
It's an
have-
entirely different plan. This is an entirely different plan
Right.
than was approved before, so
Yes.
I thought, how do we look at that way?
Well, we
Starting
really
over.
have looked at it anew, and it
Yeah.
is really all resubmitted, so.
And
So would it be safe to say that we take off any reference to tenant spaces and signage on the building elements? And the only signage that we referred to, that the architects asked us to show, was the monument sign. So we give you all the dimensions and whether there's lighting, and I don't think there's any.
Mhm.
That for the monument sign, just on the site plan,
Yeah.
that'd be acceptable?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
details, yeah, and then I understand the tricky position that you're in with tenants and wanting to get them to fill the space and the changes that you had to make. And so would it be a reasonable suggestion that you might have your big monument sign and you might have your individual business sign? And then as you bring tenants on, that they might have to come back for those signs?
So it's gonna be one and the same. The monument sign and my entrance is one and the same. So if you recall, one of the parts of our business model right now, it's been in place for 57 years, is hair replacement services, for example. So we're gonna take that out of the med spot. So where you see tenant B, we're just gonna expand our hair transplant facilities, replacement hair pieces, and then we're gonna have a retail hair salon. So you could say it's a tenant, but I'm still the sole proprietor of that business.
So will there be individual entrances to
Yes.
the parking lot? So
Yep.
how will you do the wayfinding signs for your clients to know where to go?
It's under one umbrella, my business. my business name.
What we're saying is if you need those signs to direct people to the hair salon.
Yep.
The hair salon's gonna have a sign. So you have two choices, put it on the plans now, or you have to come back later and do a sign. That's what we're saying.
And I think it would just make sense to take that reference off to the tennis, because he doesn't know who the tennis
Fine, as long as you understand.
It's still on there, so we'll take that off and just stick with the monument sign, if that's acceptable.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All
so you wanna go through the site plan?
I wanna hit the highlights. When we were here in, I think in May, we received a lot of comments. And we did a supplemental submission on, June 12th. And I wanna make sure that we're heading in the right direction on this and kind of minimize back and forth. So the comments we received were parking clarifications, it remains at 89 spaces, 20 spaces for personal services, 69 spaces for medical offices. We asked for granite curbing at the entrance, we provided that.
Thank you.
Driveway entrance slope, because we went, did the geotech investigation, we found that bedrock was down 18 inches to 4 feet. The stormwater management design as proposed by, previous, site plan was not functional, didn't make sense. So we revamped all that to accommodate for minimal intrusion into bedrock, okay? So that's what this site plan and the stormwater management goes with it reflects. Now, the comment on the water quality, Aaron, I don't want the water quality in there. I want it at the end. It's infiltration. The detention bases are providing quantity. So the detention bases are for quantity. Quality is for leaving the site. So it's coming off the parking lot commanded, but it's going into a filtration system that's protected bedrock, because you asked for protected bedrock. Even though some of this might look nice exposed wall, but we didn't do that. We laid our bedrock slopes back. We're calling it stone. A filter fabric of 140N type R so that it'll drain through that into topsoil, seed and mulch. It's a nice design. The water quality unit goes at the end of the treatment because that's where I want it.
I understand that. My comment is that you're taking untreated water from a quality point of view and putting it into an infiltration setting.
Correct.
And maybe it would be appropriate for me to let Doug speak about this.
I think, so you explain it, right, if we keep the water quality from having interior site before it leaves, we address the water quality before it's discharged. That may be acceptable.
Okay.
We should probably talk about that.
Sure.
But then those basins would have to be lined.
They're not lined. We want them to infiltrate.
You can't infiltrate water that hasn't been treated for water quality.
Sure you can. Where are you getting that from?
What we're gonna have to do,
DEC manual.
what we're gonna have to do, Joe.
I'll take care of that. I'll
Joe.
take care of that. I'm responsible for that.
Okay. Yeah. See how that fits into the operation of maintenance.
Sure. Lay the whole thing out. It's not a hot spot, but I'll manage the stormwater management for DEC and work with Doug on that.
Thank you.
Walking kind of, I'll address
Thank you.
it. This system has to work according to my design, not anybody else's. So if there's a problem with it, I'm stamping the drawings, no one else. So I'll work with you, I'll work with all of you, but I'm responsible for it.
Speaking of that, so part of the discussion was the last time, the parking lot was, we're gonna put the snow out.
On the east side of the parking lot, we have snow storage identified on the plan, all along the eastern edge.
And that will not take away the parking spot.
No, sir.
Thank you.
And again, you gotta qualify that. You get 3 feet of snow, that might do something, but under normal operations.
I live in Central area.
Okay. So driveway entrance, got 7% slope. You asked for cross sections. We had them on the plans before, but they weren't called out properly. So we have them called out to show the cross sections of the driveway. Okay. There was questions on the parking lot grading to add more structures. Wanted to see a little bit more on the pipe layouts. We provided that. You asked for the black and white contour plan. We prepared that. The ADA compliance, if you remember the original design, it was at site plan approval. It had railings and steps and stairs going into the building. Those are all gone. It's all nice handicap ramps, smooth entrance into the building. So we've cleaned all that up. there was questions on the key, to make sure that we had things called out right. I believe we've addressed it. Okay?
Snow
Snow,
88, the slopes and everything else.
yes, sir, everything, yes.
That's why we're looking for the architectural elevations.
Okay.
How that ties into the site plan and the drainage.
Understood. And we tie in the finished floor that's proposed, so all that from the exterior out, and we've coordinated that based on the proposed entrances that they have in the
Should
building.
be easy enough.
Yeah,
From
yeah.
in to just, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Yep. Snow short, we talked about blasting versus ripping rock. Doug, you said, you know, if they need to, there'd have to be a plan for that for the blasting. Because we're going so shallow, it's rippable rock, but that's a means and method that's the contractor's call. But we gotta go through all the proper channels to do any blasting, I'm sure, but right now it's rippable, right, that rock.
The other thing, Joe, is on the architect's both right now. No foundation. You know how that all ties in.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is now. One level now.
Yes,
The foundation, the slab on grade, because that starts to tie in to the other things that we do.
understood.
Right. So I mean, just looking at it, that was one of my comments. Whoops, like. Problem.
It's got a big exposed front wall on that with our foundation plan. We'll tie all that in with the landscaping and make it all permanent. We provided note on the plans regarding the landscaping to match the architects when they had it finalized. And I think the question was about screening mechanicals. So this is not like a double wide trailer park. It's kind of a classy layout. So, I mean, we've taken all this under advisement and laying these drawings out. But some of this, we've got to coordinate with the architect. It's understood, but it's a good looking project. And not that there's anything wrong with a double wide trailer park, but we've got a lot of detail here and we're trying to tie this all together. So we're doing site plan review is what we're looking
Yeah.
for.
That's what, yeah, we're trying to do this thing.
So we'll get things streamlined for you, but I think we're trying to hit the same thing you're looking for. Which retaining wall comments and drainage design concerns. They're not design concerns for us. We retain water all the time. Our stormwater management off the side towards the road is very steep. We gotta provide gradual drops using the retaining walls. We have to meet our stormwater management requirements. So we're kind of fighting opposing forces here. But we know how to do it. We pin it into rock. We know how to retain the water. We know how to stage it, temporarily release it. We know how to do that. And we've provided the retaining wall details on there. And we've got the stormwater management report updated. So we have the SWIP report updated. We submitted that on June 12th with all these other comments. So we provided the information that we think you need.
It's ready rock, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the building drawing, so on June 10th, I think that's when we got some additional comments. You set the public hearing for tonight. So that's where we talked about the rock exposure and we got that section added in, had that added into the plans. Additional building drawing details were requested by architects and they admitted that they didn't have the date right. We also were asked to do the fire truck turn patterns. Our original plan had a 39-foot truck. That's what we were asked to model. I talked to Paul Gilbreth and when he issued a review letter, which we received today. We're going to address those. Some of the comments were about providing fire hydrants on the site. And we can show them, but we don't design that water system. That's an aqua requirement. So what we do is we take our plans, provide coordinate geometry to aqua, and they lay out the system. So we'll coordinate that, but that request from the fire department was just new to us today, and that will address that.
Well, I think that's an architectural, right? Not even sure it's an aqua, right? Your architect's gonna tell you what they need for code, and then they're gonna request that from aqua.
For fire suppression, yes, but they want yard hydrants too. So they've had, the fire department's asked for yard hydrants. They want to know where the Siamese connections are on the building for the tie-ins. So we'll get that information, okay? Did you see that?
So I sent it out, everybody.
You're talking about the letter dated June 27th from fire.
Joe said he's got it
Yes.
today.
Okay.
Okay.
That's-
Today.
I forgot, it's sent.
Oh, that's right, we got, yeah.
I just wanna make sure we have the same one.
Yeah.
It's the usual, it's the usual.
So everybody's got that letter, we'll be addressing that, okay? So we delivered updated drawings in the SWIP report, and we submitted those back in June 12th. I reached out, I should have made sure that you saw them, and I don't know if I should send them directly, but some of this stuff is kind of like minor details. Just want to make sure I don't blindside you at all, okay? So, and then the signage we talked about. So I know you're looking for a lot of information. You feel compelled to close the public hearing to, site plan approval. We're burning daylight these 30 days and 30 days. I'm not so agreeable about the building requirements. I know you guys feel you need them. We're here for site plan approval. I'm not so sure that the building floor plan is a critical component.
It's actually part of the code.
There you go.
Not the floor.
They want to mess with that.
Floor plans, exterior elevations and sections.
So the elevations and sections were sent in.
I'm check, I have it printed out because I can't remember.
Yeah, but the elevations and sections were provided.
Yep, preliminary, it's number 5, preliminary architectural drawings.
Architectural, she's saying.
Yeah, they were on those, didn't they give you the elevation drawings that were misstated? Okay.
So we have, I mean, we have.
We got north and south, we have north and south,
It's
but
not
not
a
the
scale.
scale.
You know, I think the building's lovely. Personally, I don't have any issues with the building. I think it's really, really nice. I think it's just a matter of cleaning up some of those details and tying eyes and crossing T's and stuff. So I just want to make sure though that everybody's comfortable, especially the owner, and understands just how much rock is gonna come out of that, like the driveway.
We got it.
Okay, it's a huge improvement to the last plan, which just wasn't really as you outlined, but, that's a big cut. Eric, do you have any plans for reusing any of that, rock on site or
Not at this
in a
time.
decorative way or?
We always evaluate, I know when they did that, the senior facility, they took a lot of material over out of the Twin Shores properties piled up over there. So it's big flat plates.
Yeah.
I don't know about crushing it, reusing it on site, it's just, it's a cost issue, but we'll look at that. But we'll probably find a home for it on Twin Shores site.
I wanna ask the board too, based on the comments that Doug sent us, I just wanna ask if the board how they feel about what we've received as far as architectural color schemes, or the elevations of those drawings, and then would you feel like we need to see any material samples of the stone, the stucco, or anything like that? So
Is it EFS?
What's that?
Is it EFS?
I don't believe so. Ethos on that building, I don't believe so. That's a question for the architects. I don't think so. I thought it was hardwood, but I'm not sure.
There's some questions, right? Okay, it's kind of narrow, this is stuff all the house and stone. Are there any mechanicals on the roof?
Yeah.
It doesn't really show, right? So.
I don't believe mechanics are going to be on the roof. It is going to be stone, stone and stucco material. Working with the architect and the builder on that.
But to your point, it doesn't say whether it's ethos or hardboard or anything else. Question, I mean, it's up to you.
I think this is the, you may have a concept, where the mechanicals go.
Like says there are none on the roof, but you can't tell what this
Is there a flat roof
on
on it? The center flat roof?
No, it'd probably be ground mounted. That's when we talk about what the landscaping around it.
Well, where are they then?
I think we haven't designed mechanical yet.
Yeah, I think we have to see that stuff, at least
Sure.
that's my opinion. I don't think that it's far off, but I think that there's a lot of little pieces that just have to be brought together. And I don't doubt your confidence in standing drawings, but these are the kinds of things that it's our job to look at. And so, I'm well versed in speeds, and SWIP preparation and all that kind of stuff. And, know, I just wanna make sure that, I know you know what you're talking about, and I think you know that I know what I'm talking about. And so
Yes.
I just wanna make sure that everybody gets to the same thing.
You know, we all gotta understand that the idea is, on stormwater is to reduce off-site impacts, right? Water quality and water quantity. So what we're doing is we're providing the means to store that water on site. And if it does infiltrate, it's okay, it's going to bedrock. It's okay. The water quality.
People get their drinking water from bedrock.
What's that?
There's a lot of people that get their drinking water from wells that
Sure.
are fed by
And what
bedrock.
contaminants are we talking about?
The list of what comes off the parking lot, I don't have it fresh, but it's, I mean,
It's usually petroleum constituents.
and heavy metals and, you know,
Sure.
salts and.
Heavy metals, that's what the lawn area is for. That's what that typical section is for. So we can go around and on it. Honestly, I'll take care of it. It'll be done right. I give you my word.
Or do you feel comfortable relaying this to Anthony, the architect?
Yes.
There always seems to be a little bit of
Yes,
confusion, and I wanna make sure that you guys don't have to go back again.
We're gonna lay this all out for him.
And yeah, even if he has to meet with Doug, I mean, I'm not sure if we're working over phone, but
Yeah.
just to make sure
Get it over with. Yeah.
before the deadline to the next.
You're really close on everything.
Yeah.
It's just some of the details that were in place, so.
Okay,
Understood. Okay.
well, we can, if you're,
I'm done. Yeah, I'm
we
done.
can go through seeker and then before we do the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
We haven't opened the public hearing yet. We haven't opened the public hearing yet, it's not open yet.
Just in case someone has questions, want to show it.
Okay, so we will go through seeker. Question number one.
Proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations.
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
Small.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Small.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
No?
Was that the statement?
Yeah.
Use of energy.
I mean, how would they?
Well, because it's small, I mean, it's small. Yeah, it would be small anyway, it's an impact, right? It's large. Okay. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the important historic archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
With those answers being, small, yeah.
First question.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
Which gets back to my original question. Was, plan that says zoned RA, and proposed zoning was neighborhood shopping. Can we confirm that in fact that was completed?
The zone change?
Zone change?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes, or they wouldn't be in front of us.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, it was. Then we answered that problem.
Alright, okay, so everything been answered, no or small impact, and the chair can entertain
a negative secret declaration for this project. All right, motion made by Doc, second by Rich, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for a negative secret declaration. Okay, we've already waived the reading, we have not. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, Judy's waiving the reading, second by Rich, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make the motion to open the public hearing.
Motion made by Aaron, second by David, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Open the public hearing. Sir, would you like to speak? Please tell us your name and where you live.
Yeah. My name is Nick Massa. I live at 101 Stargaze. So it's one of those townhouses that's right up against that line up on the hill there. Most of my questions have been addressed by this. There's just a few of the questions I'd like to ask. We're talking about a one-story structure. Okay. I'm concerned about the size of the parking lot. In fact, that you're gonna put all the asphalt there. I know you're gonna have tall parking lot lights, shining lights into my back window at night, engine noise, a lot of people moving around. It's been a quiet neighborhood until now. When they constructed the resort down below, there were construction equipment running all around behind my house, right by my slider. I couldn't even open my slider for dust, dirt, noise, constant. Well, I don't know how long until they completed that project. The dust and dirt was so bad, it came around the front of the house into the garage. Back of the house, I had wash the whole house off. It was such a mess. Now, I thought I heard something tonight that distresses me. Was there a mention of blasting? My hearing aids, so I thought he said something about blasting stone.
No,
I'm sorry.
they don't know yet.
They don't know yet.
They don't know yet, but they're,
Because if they do any blasting, that whole hill is built on stone. It'll shock those foundations terribly. And sometimes damage shows up a couple of years later, not immediately. So I'm really concerned about that. I thought I heard you say something about blasting, and like I said, I hear that well. Other than that, the parking lot, and even the traffic, other driveways coming out onto Medical Center Drive, there's plenty of traffic there as it is. A lot more traffic. More entrances to Medical Center Drive. But once again, I thought, did he mention there would be more than 100 parking spaces up there so close to it?
no, it's
Between staff and
89.
89.
89.
89, yeah. It's a lot of cars and that. Like I say, I'd rather not be on my deck looking at tall parking lots, bright lights at night, things like that. But that's about all I can think of right now, but if they could do the job a little cleaner without dirtying the house, we can't even open our sliders because it's so bad when they do the other project. That's about all I have to say to answer the other questions I wanted to know about. What was going to be in this house. Well, once again, could you review that for me? What's going to be in the building itself?
Mike, do you want to speak?
Sure. We're a med spa and conference and wellness. So we do a lot of laser work now, there's hair removal, scar removal, acne removal, those kinds of things. We do injections such as Botox and Juvederm. We do hydrofacials, high-end skin care. We're a medical weight loss facility. We're going to have physical therapy in the portion of the just expand those services, ID therapy, massage therapy, hair services, those kind of things.
This business of tenants referring to commercial enterprise.
The commercial enterprise.
Yeah, you're not talking about hot commercial. There's tenants who want to run that commercial.
Yep, so we're not gonna have a bunch of different tenants, I'm gonna do sole proprietor of the whole space. So these are services that we're currently doing now, we're just gonna be adding a few more.
Okay. That's about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll address the rest of your comments after other people have spoken. Would you like to
Question.
Oh, my God, couple of questions. Sorry, no.
If you could just state your name and where you live.
Linda Massa, 101 Stargate Circle. I know they have to do the planning and everything again, but I got this little plan off the website today, and I was just wondering, I'm pretty sure this is the front of the building. No? Wait. Oh, hold on. Sorry.
So this is the interest rate. This is the partial. This is what it is. That your windows are down here.
And there's only one entrance.
One entrance, there's no entrance at all.
So.
You can't hear what you guys are speaking about. I'm wondering if you guys can demonstrate on the
Where would
screen.
that put Stargaze?
Joe, can we refer to the screen so we have to all be able to hear it? Hang on.
I'll show you. So I think you're asking, is this the front of the building? No, this is Medical Center Drive. You'll recall, American United is right here, Senior Resort Living is right here. So you drive up, there are no doors, no entranceways at all. The entranceway is gonna be here, and then this is the front of the building. And this is the front.
And where are the townhouses?
So the townhouses start right here.
Okay. That's where we are.
Okay. There are some pine, there's a row of pine trees here, I wish I could call it myself.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Massa, do you have further questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak?
Mm.
Would anyone else like to speak for the A&E vet spa? Okay, is there anyone online? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Wait a minute. Okay, Joe or Mike, I wanted to know if you could come up to the podium and address some of the questions the first gentleman had. I wrote it down. And if you could go over, the lights in the parking lot, like the heights, how many, if you could maybe show the plan. Address the engine noise, like car engine noise. I'm wondering if we could just take the hours of operation and how much you expect. Let's do those two first, and then I got more on what I said.
Okay, I'll do the site lighting. So this is a photometric plan. Brighter colors show the light spread from the brighter colors here, show the parking lot lighting. And I'm not sure what Manlius had, but what we try to do is we have a zero measured foot candle, light intensity 3 foot above the ground. What we try to do is make sure that at the property line, we get back to zero. Keep the lights rather low, they're not tall, poles. And then the other thing is they're downward directional, so it's kind of a dark sky thing. And then what you can do up on the property line, we have a hedgerow that's going to stay, and we have shields on the backside, so it doesn't glare on your property. So to keep it focused for safety and just usability on the parking lot. Okay.
And then if you could talk about the hours of operation and like the.
Hours of operation right now are 9 till 7, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We close at 5 on Mondays. 5 on Fridays and we're 9 to 1 on Saturdays. Those are.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You have an idea of what the lights would be?
We probably dust it down or now, so.
Also, an idea of customers in and out, traffic.
Yeah, so I've always thought that we have more parking spots, spaces than we need. I understand there's code, personal and medical. We generally will have right now anywhere from 18 to 22 occupied parking spaces. Obviously, we're gonna expand services there. I think we may double it when we're maximum capacity, maybe a little bit more, 45 to 50. You gotta understand now, these are treatment modalities that don't take a lot of time. So we won't be at full maximum capacity all that often.
And Mike, you're not talking like whenever he's doing rush hour, it's like a peak hourly load, early morning, 4 or 5 o'clock, it's kind of spread out through the day.
Right, and
Like
we wait, yep, we wait till they get to work, drops off kids, that's why we open at 9. We won't open any earlier.
Is it similar to the traffic that the medical facility is over there?
Well, as you can imagine, they're much larger. I think you got, this is my opinion, I think you got far more parking than you ever needed over there. I think we're gonna have more parking than we need. But their hours of occupation are much broader than ours, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to have any more traffic in our place, then you go over there.
And then just to, could you talk, Joe, a little bit about construction? Mr. Massa was mentioning a lot of dirt from previous construction, which I know wasn't your project, but if you can address that. And then also, could you clarify about blasting of rock?
Yes, so typically when you put in your erosion sediment control plan, you have dust control. And that's something that has to be followed religiously through with the contractors, with your SWIP inspections, the drainage inspections that we have to do. So dust control is part of the process. It's gotta be maintained, roads gotta be swept, that's all part of it. The details of that, we outlined in how we manage it in a stormwater pollution prevention plan, but we have to monitor construction aspects for dust control. Given it's a medical facility, your residential uses, they're next door, medical facility behind it, senior facility in front, we have to be aware of all that, and that's supposed to be built into our plan, and it will be.
I know it's tough, but there was excess when they built down, well, that left a lot of puddles up top, but mosquitoes love to thrive. I finally did away with the puddles, thank God, and, yeah, with the growth.
You know, with any project like this, there's that period when you're under construction. I just had a 23 home subdivision went right next door to me. And, you know, it's like, it's part of the process, but they should not be impacting offsite. They just should not be. So whether it's site lighting or traffic or dust control, it's a responsibility of the contractors and the design team to manage that on site. That's what our obligation is, and to take care of the community. There's, you know, the construction part, the noise, construction hours have got to be in a reasonable time. You know, they got to take that into consideration, and that's all part of the pre-construction process, which can be part of code enforcement, will be part of it, to make sure that they're not out there at 5 o'clock in the morning on the ground. Okay, so that's the part we have to cover.
What about the?
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Just how far away from the property line does the parking lot start?
Well, prevention wise, this is your facilities up here, right? That hedgerow and all that all stays. So we stay inside that. I don't know what dimension, I can pull it out the drawing, but the intent is to leave all that there. So that screening stays there. I can give you the dimension of that, pull it up, but it's in a way, so that we leave that, and there's a berm there. I can scale it for you if you like, measure.
Before they planted the trees, they put a line there along the back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gas too?
Maybe gas.
National Grid has an easement in there, yes. Okay. Yeah.
And what about the blasting of stone? Can you clarify?
So I don't know a lot about the last part of it. We try to avoid it. I understand and talking to Doug that it's something that goes on when you need it in the areas. But you I know you can't blast it without blasting max and have a blasting program. You gotta get a certified blasting contractor. And you can't, detonate, way more than you're supposed to. This is very brittle, I'm gonna say friable rock. So in our experience on this, and what I think I saw with a lot of the material went across the road from that senior facility in front, they ripped it. They had a big dozer and they ripped it with a big bang on the back of it and tore that rock out of there. I don't believe they did a lot of blasting, but I don't know that for sure. So,
That's the primary reason why we did away with the lower floor, because we knew that there was gonna be some issues with bedrock. I've talked to two builders, my understanding is there won't need any blasting. That's why we did two separate, soil sample testing.
And if anything changes, I mean, you can't just bring in some guy to wing it. It's gotta be a laid out program that's approved by the town for code enforcement. You gotta be a certified blaster, you just can't. So the thing with the property lines, people's property, you have to take all that into consideration before you blast and after.
What's your expected timeline of construction?
That's a very important question. Frankly, my biggest concern is getting towards the end of the construction season. And that was gonna be a question I was gonna hold to the end, but it's very, very important for me. Financing in place, it's been in place for quite some time, but it's a constant moving target and they're kind of asking for a little bit more of a definitive schedule. So that's a question I'm really gonna be asking. I know you've got process in place. And that's what I was gonna ask, if the approval process can be contingent on some of the concerns and comments that you made. It'd be really helpful for us to put the timeline together, the builders, construction, obviously, and finance. Get architectural, final architectural drawings.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak for the public hearing?
Comment. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. They said they took a lot of rock down below and built the medical center. Don't go solid thing rock. It might be rock that.
Right, that's what I described, with the ripping. So that would be the objective. That would be the most cost effective way to do it, I would imagine. We'll go more as time goes on, but.
Lisa, we don't have anyone online? We do not. Okay, I'll make a motion to close, or take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move that.
Motion made by Arnie, second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. So I am hearing from some of the members of the board that they need to see a final compilation with what everybody's been asking for. I understand your timeline. The deadline for the next meeting is Wednesday at noon. Is that's there, or because then there is. Thank you.
Two sides of architectural change, or elevational changes, is that from our architectural team?
Joe, right, I mean, we need to know materials of construction, we need to see the mechanicals, on the roof,
Landscaping plan.
or on the floor.
Elevations.
Can I ask if, planning board approval process? Contingencies, these are things that we.
I don't think so, but I think they're, board can speak for themselves, but they're integral to the whole site. But it's,
Let's see a quick answer. Does anybody want
I
to make
can't
a
hear the
contingent?
question because
A contingent, he's asking if we want to make an approval contingent upon all the things we've asked for. I just want a quick yes or no.
Because it's very important for me to continue the project on, getting started very soon. I'm losing my window as far as getting the architectural drawing, finalized plan, and then maintaining the construction crew that we have together. We can't occupy, we're not gonna get an occupancy permit with all of these concerns that you have. But building.
Not addressing that.
You don't even have the zoning correct yet.
I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know what the zoning is.
We do, when
I'm like.
No, I
appreciate.
I understand your timeline, but we could, our next meeting is July 22nd. We would love to see everything in by the deadline of what we're asking for, so we can make a good approval of good documents so that you can move forward. Okay? And again, if Anthony wants to talk to Doug, get together with Doug between the next couple days.
Is that possible though? Ask Joe if he can call.
Lisa, I know you're tight on time. Is there any extension on Wednesday? We can give to like 3 o'clock? We can give to 3 o'clock PM on Wednesday, deadline?
That's 2:59, so.
Yes,
2:59.
not 3:01.
3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Cause we know it's a tight turnaround, but yeah, for the 22nd.
What we'll do is, we will let the architects know, and then we'll let you know, Lisa, copy you, Doug, if there's anything changes, is that deadline? Is it like?
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Appreciate all your explanations and everything, thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is for Shadi Estella. Jamie, do you need to? Yeah. Okay. Jamie, this is for 7147 East Genesee Street, Fayetteville, for mental health counseling. This is the second presentation for site plan and accessory use permit. And the tax map number is number 085.-06-09.0. And we have someone on behalf of the applicants.
Sarah, you're at representing CNS companies.
You're gonna have to speak up a little more. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Really over the.
Sorry, the air conditioning.
Oh, it's fine. Gabriel, you're representing CNS Engineering. I'm on behalf of Jessica.
We do have some, if you would like to present, we know that some documents together, so you can sign over those for us.
Show on screen if you all have copies. Just probably.
Yeah, if you want to share, then everybody else in the room can see it.
So I was not at the first meeting, so some of this might be repetitive to you all. But it's a mental health facility that's currently a residential occupant, and they're looking to expand for a parking lot. A lot of the comments we got back was providing an actual site plan, which we answered with that, and just giving some more logistics. And Doug, I know you provided comments that we received today. But it's a simple, we're looking to expand additional parking for their services of the mental health facility, which will only take up the first floor of the space, which is about 1,300 square feet.
Okay, will they still be occupying the second floor at all?
Not to my knowledge.
So no one will be living there?
Correct.
Okay, that was one of my questions. And
not to my knowledge right away. I don't know if in the future she might expand to do more, I'm not sure. But from what we.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering for parking, because the parking requirements that you have on the site plan are for the first floor and for the office.
Yes.
So if they were using the second floor.
Correct.
As an
And that's
apartment.
something we talked about, so she was aware that I was only planning for the first floor to be occupied with their business.
So yeah, so they, I think if they have the second floor, they have to.
What's currently on the second floor? 2 bedrooms and a bath.
So it would have to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but there would not be able to be any occupancy, right? Because there would be no parking. and all the other things,
Kitchen, yeah,
like to make it a habitable space.
Yes.
to
Go ahead.
I had a couple other questions based on the site plan real quick, and then if other people have questions, I'll talk to the site plan. One question I have is for the lot coverage, the proposed lot coverage is blank.
1 second, I'm just taking notes. So the proposed lot coverage, it's over the 50%, and that's where we were coming, I think it's a 50% that we have to hit.
50%, yeah.
Yes, so is that something we need to do an amendment for, or something with you all?
I think we'd have to go to.
Right, you have to know what it is.
Yeah, we have to know what
And then the
amount
board
it
would have to absorb that and then decide if they want to move forward or not with any type of a recommendation to the Board of Appeals,
Right,
Okay.
potentially.
yeah, so we have to know.
You gotta get back to parking, is there. We need to add more parking.
Correct.
Then
Yeah.
They would
Affects the lot.
increase lot,
Yeah.
Well, to back up even further, from my perspective, I can't really review the project because the submission doesn't meet the requirements of the site plan review items that we need to be able to see. There's no grading, there's no drainage, there's no survey. There's issues with access and permission, curb cuts and that came up with a list of things too. But I actually did not spend a whole lot of time digging into the nitty-gritty of all this kind of stuff, because when I first looked at it, I realized that while it's absolutely closer to where it needs to be for a submission, it's still missing a lot of the stuff that we need to see.
Okay, a survey was
We do have a
provided.
survey.
I was only looking at the stuff online.
We do have a survey. And one of my other questions, just as a question, will they be using the road, because of the way the site plan is drawn, is the plan to use and access the garage
So I think the garage right now she would use for storage.
and not actually
Yeah,
drive in or, okay, that was my question. Doug, did you wanna share any other comments? And if anyone else is there.
Gabrielle, this is an area where, as we talked to the highway superintendent, this is an area of drainage concern. That first block of Genesee Street going back into the Homewood section. Traditionally, we have a lot of drainage complaints there. So when we look at something like this, and as we've done all the way down the corridor,
Sure.
we do look for a drainage study.
Sure.
Or a drainage letter, just basically says whatever you're proposing is less than or equal to what it was previously. If you look at that site, if anybody's been out there, this is one of the hot spots in the whole corridor. There is no infrastructure, there's no stormwater infrastructure in the whole development. But there, if you go and look, there are 2 dry basins, right where the parking lot is proposed. They're on either side of the street. And it goes back to when Bill Bennett was highway superintendent. That they didn't have any place to put it, so.
Dry base is like a French drain.
That's right.
It's like a catch basin with no bottom.
Yep, yeah. And it's right.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but if you drive out there,
I saw.
you can see them in the aerials too. So when I did talk to Rob, that's one of his major concerns. And we've done other things up and down the corridor, like little pocket ponds or other French drains or, different things that protects the neighbors and the applicant to say, hey, when we get down the road, just like we talked earlier this evening, we do have measures in place to try to protect property infrastructure along the corridor.
Okay.
And then Rob, we want to look at final road cuts for another year. And to your point, Aaron, I mean, it kind of goes down in a hollow, so I think it is important to try to get nothing elaborate, but just, like the USGS contour.
Yeah, and there's site things, and now, I think that this is a perfect use for this site in RM, right? It's exactly the kind of stuff that we wanna see there, and I think it's a great, need in the community. And so it's definitely doable, and I really wanna see it happen. But it just needs to kind of be brought up to the level of, drawings and plans and all that kind of stuff that we need to see in order to be able to do our review.
Okay, could you give Gabrielle a
Yeah.
copy of the requirements for site plan?
It's, you wanna write it? It's chapter 155, article 4, section 155-28. And it's in the, I keep it printed out, it's in the zoning section, special regulation.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa will get it to you. Yeah, do you want to point any information out to her?
No, I think it's all doable stuff, and I'm sure that once you'll understand when
Yeah.
you look at it, so.
Both creative plans, I get that.
Yeah.
I have a question about parking. You mentioned there'll be 3 employees, 5 parking spaces, ways to use the parking spaces, and you expect 20 patients a day. Then I was too wondering about the garage, because the final site plan here indicates the garage will not be used. I was just concerned if the employees need to park on site. There's only 2 spaces remaining for 20 visitors a day. Is that sufficient?
Correct. And again, I'm just the engineer, so I don't think that's a question
Yeah.
for me
Well,
to
that's-
answer there.
I may not have an answer.
But I
Should
can
the
have,
garage go away, so
Yeah.
you have more parking
Yeah.
spaces?
and that's something I could bring to her.
We did ask that, a similar question to that before, and one of the things that she reminded us is that their patients are hourly type thing, so it's not like 20 cars all at once.
Oh, that one, of course not, but even.
But that was
20 a
one of
day.
the
But still,
reasons
it's
was that
3.
it's divided out.
Yeah.
If there's 3 practitioners and they each have a patient, that's 6 at
Yeah.
a time. I mean, I guess the overlap could be tricky, but that's for her to.
Right.
It's one of- that's on.
Yeah.
Did you wanna read your report?
Doug, you had a list that you said?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I have it, and I think most of
That list I sent you folks is that.
most of everything that are on the list have been covered,
Okay,
that we talked about.
okay.
Is there any need to look at signs?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
We have not proposed a sign.
Will there be a sign?
We're not proposing a sign now.
You have to come back separately.
Yeah, I'm just asking for
Yeah.
your finance if she wants, if they're thinking of a sign, because it's easier to do
Now.
this, yeah.
I will let her know.
I think does anyone else have anything?
Use
Yeah,
somehow.
So once we, sorry to interrupt there, the lot coverage percentage, once we provide that, let's say it's over that 50%, what's the process for that?
yeah. In order to get a variance.
One very minor comment on A103. The lot area minimum, somebody could propose at 0.027, I guess is that should be 0.27.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good eyes.
So, that's like, I know this is your use permit.
Lot coverage issue. You gotta figure out first.
Would maybe
And
provide-
then come back and everything's.
Yeah, we would, so what's the order? So, yeah, so my understanding, if you get the lot coverage to us, I mean, you can even get that number to Lisa, so if it's
Okay.
over the 50%, which it looks like it probably is in a heartbeat. Then you could come back on, we could, or, which should come back on? I would back, yeah,
It comes back, so we make a recommendation.
right, yeah, so you would come back to this board.
Okay.
So that we can provide a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals for the lot coverage issue. And then it would come back
And then we
after,
finish.
depending on their decision, it would come
Okay.
back here.
Sounds good.
And that may change if you decide with your client to change the site plan,
Yeah.
Change the parking.
then it would change your coverage.
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
And as far as the grades and stuff goes, you know, we do need a survey, but
We do have a survey.
no, I can't, it's not online, so that's why I keep.
It was in the first, yeah.
Yeah, it's in here.
Is it just boundary? That was legal. Oh dear, you're gonna need turbo. But it won't have to be X, you'll have to have only as much as you need to do.
For the, yeah.
And I think those dry wells are good.
There,
Any other questions for us?
No, I think once we get moving with the variance, which I think we'll be, so. I don't know.
The site plan stuff.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last item on our agenda is Damian Cornwell, 185 West Sunnycliff Street, Manlius, New York. This is an initial presentation for site plan and special use permit for cannabis retail. Tax map number, oh,
This is a special use or accessory use.
that was a special
One
use
like that.
permit, yeah.
It's up to the wall.
Cannabis.
Like,
Yeah, especially if-
they all go.
Right, that was the zoning that changed. The tax map number 106.2.
Throw in the corner.
Yeah. So, I just changed it to. The tax map number is 106.01-07.0. And we have.
Good evening.
Yes, please.
Greg Stromo, Stromo Engineers. We're the site engineers, and I've got Damian Cornwell here, owner operator of the facility. And we're here for initial presentation, hoping to get some comments, feedback from the board on best way to move forward. And if you'd like, I'd go through kind of what we have
Yes, please.
on the plan. So it's currently a little stone building. I think it's driven by for the last like 35 years. Hasn't changed dramatically. And the intent is not to change it dramatically. It's to repurpose the existing building. We are looking at the site. It's a very tricky site for a couple of reasons. Primarily because New York State DOT has a right of way that bisects part of the building and takes up a lot of frontage.
I'm sorry, could you put it, just 1 second, somebody in the audience is having trouble seeing. And so, could you put it up?
There you go. Good job.
That all-
Careful,
Yeah.
careful, does that help? Careful.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So, you know, part of, one of the problems we have is that the New York State DOT right of way bisects part of the building, so we're kind of a little bit confined by that, not tremendous, but a little bit. And the existing site has, some encroachments, the neighboring property has a fence and a driveway, it's on our property. And then we have part of, the existing parking lot that's on their property, so, we're trying to work around some of those little issues. We're not, the current plan doesn't see any problem with the encroachment of the neighbor. We are going to trim back our parking lot, paving a little bit back, so that we're not encroaching on their property any longer, and they'll be restored to grass. Right now, the driveway is literally as wide as the property, and we're going to narrow that down, bring that in conformance to New York State DOT standards. And that'll have a basically 24-foot driveway, 33-foot radii on the islands. we are proposing 5 parking spaces, which meets the requirement for the use of the site. And 188 spots, walk through here, so we'll walk through there, sidewalk in the front, they kind of buffer the parking in the building. That has to be ADA compliant when we're done, which currently is not. There are 2 entrances to the building, one located at the east side and one at the north. The east side one is the actual retail entrance. Other than that, I don't think the building's gonna change much at all. It for a brief time was used under some sort of a special permit. Not special permit, but like we're looking for, but a different special permit for this and operated pretty seamlessly and very well for the owners of the board. So that's the main part.
I couldn't hear that.
It did operate for a period of time as a dispensary, and there were no issues. It operated, as intended. So it was kind of a trial run on that.
And it's not this applicant.
What's that?
It is not this.
It is this applicant, yes.
That ran it before.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So they got a comfort level with what is being presented, on the site plan that'll work for that.
And that goes for parking too, because that was one of my questions, like
Yeah.
number of employees and
And
number of
I'm
customers.
gonna let David maybe speak a little bit to that, since I did not have any direct experience with when it was that, and it's not gonna be my business. So, I don't wanna go first.
Can I ask, I didn't catch the initial remarks about the parking. And I'm struggling to figure out on page 3 of the application, and B4, off-street gravel parking exists, the attached parking plan which accommodates 11 vehicles.
Well, that was,
Not following.
yeah, and that was, something that needed to be corrected from between that initial, because we didn't do that. Existing on the site is about 11 vehicles parked there. The main issue is that,
Site, there were 11.
yeah, you can park a lot of vehicles on that site. Not-
Fiat 500s.
No, I can put 11 pickup trucks on that site. The problem is, it's not all on that site.
So
Okay,
that's when
or
you mentioned the adjoining property.
it's part of the adjoining property, or it's in the DOT, take DOT right away in the front there, which I cannot imagine the DOT is gonna allow us to do. So we could fit more parking if we needed to or wanted to. That basically do is we could put another parking here. We have to take out the fence and driveway to the neighboring property. The owner is basically, the operator basically said, I don't need that parking, so I'm not gonna sit there and go that route,
I'm looking at the survey, I think it's the survey property. The building is actually located within the right of way.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it say it.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the issues with the property is that somehow, some way, somebody decided they're gonna take a right of way in a building they're never gonna tear down because it's kind of
Is that like an actual fee in public title, or is that land in private ownership with a right of way?
so how it happens, I don't know. Okay, I've seen this happen before. But along with
Yeah, I
that,
have too, but
yeah,
it occurred to me, can you sell this product on public property?
you can. Oh,
I just,
yeah, it's a good legal question, Jamie.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I know my limitations.
that needn't be resolved here tonight. It just, I was looking at it.
It was legal, why not?
I mean, this is such
I
a
mean,
convoluted product.
it happens a lot, it happens a lot in the city, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, but not selling cannabis.
It's a.
I don't,
But that's
it's a, I'm not looking for a resolution.
That's a good discussion for tomorrow, I think. Unless somebody wants to Google it real quick. But,
the use of the actual building and probably even that parking in the front to some extent is kind of grandfathered from that right of way taking. We're trying to avoid having to go there with the, you know, if we can. To be frank.
That's exactly what I would do.
Those things take a lot of time.
And you don't need more than 5 spaces. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, so let me have David speak to their operations, and then that way, you know, he can answer those questions directly.
Okay, before we get to the operation, if I can ask one more question.
That's up to you.
I'm assuming, similar to liquor stores, you had to go through the process to get a license or whatever they call it back in December to be able to open as a dispensary. Is that correct?
That's correct. So, folks, thanks for this opportunity to present with you guys today. Would be our second location. Our first location, I partnered with the Urban League to do more of a philanthropic dispensary. We give a lot of money that we make back to the community. It's located at 75 4th Street, right downtown Binghamton. So that was the first one. And then we reapplied with the state, the Office of Cannabis Management, and got a temporary license to open up over the holidays just to see if that location could work. This store is set up more like a boutique. I think the showroom where people actually look around is maybe 700 square feet. That's a real tiny spot in terms of people walk in to be checked in here, right? And this is it. This is the only showroom there is. And we saw over the holidays an average of about a customer every 12 minutes or so. It takes about 6.5 to 7 minutes to talk to the customer and have them leave. So once that happened, we knew that we didn't need a lot of parking. But to answer your question directly, absolutely. We were approved with Office of Cannabis Management, and this license is number 65, approved by the state in the last two Qs ago as a retail license.
And it was just temporary through the end of the year.
Well, the first one was, and then we applied for a permanent license once we saw that things went well at the holiday.
Yeah.
Came back to the state, and then we were approved in April as license number 65 of the state to actually be your full time.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And with regard to sale of the cannabis stuff, what you're going to find for the stuff that just breathes, most of our clientele is almost pre-retirees. We see a lot of people that come in and will look for gummies, for edibles and things because they got a bad shoulder, bad knee. We don't really have a young crowd. It's not really our thing. It's more like, you know, salves, creams, gummies, maybe seltzer waters, this type of thing. And then some people still like flower for sure. But we see a huge amount of folks really seem to use edibles and things like that for functionality.
What's your hours of operation?
Yeah. So let's go with the money. We're only up tonight.
Yep, so we said 10 a.m. would be our opening time for like every day except Sunday. And then like weekdays, Tuesday through Thursday, we would close at 8. And then Friday, Saturday, we would give until about 9. And then Sunday, a little more limited, noon to 8.
Right, and so what I found was, especially when we experienced Binghamton, again, those hours fit the demographic, like the crowd we serve. There's nothing for us after 8, 9 o'clock. Most people come in when they're just getting off of work or before they have like dinner plans or something like that, they get their stuff and they go home. You know,
We're in line with liquor hours of local liquor stores in Manlius. I believe New York State allows dispensaries to go to the but based on what you're saying, can we put a restriction?
That has been a question of controversy. I don't know how everyone else is coming down on it. It's my opinion that as part of the special use permit, it can be restricted. That's my argument.
Just curious.
no problem. And for your own edification, I have no desire to be open any later than what we said.
Well, I did a little research on this about, I mean, it's really interesting, actually. the state law about signage, hours of operation, the product, there's all sorts of other facilities. So, yes, so yeah, no, it's.
You know what, the other thing that Lynn was having an earlier close time in a town like Manlius is the fact that you don't get a lot of walking traffic.
Now we have this,
Yeah.
everybody's asleep by now.
Right, so it's like, you're not gonna see, like, if we were right in the heart of Syracuse or in a metropolis, you'd wanna stay open later because you get foot traffic, you're probably trying to track the younger folks. That's not really what Just Read does,
Right.
which is the name of the store. So,
Which is good for this community.
which is good for us.
Yeah.
There's, forget those are working.
A lot of that across the street there, that plaza, a lot of those places close at like too. It's like a dollar store.
Yeah. We'll be done before that. Only, even in England, guys, we only have one late night, which is Saturday, we stay up until 10. And then the other two late nights are 9, and everything else, other than that, 8 o'clock.
Most of the time, like when the showcase was operating too, we were open till 8, but 7 to 8 was like closing time. Like a customer might have walked in once or twice.
Right.
Most of the time, when 8 o'clock hit.
Yeah, they're done. They don't, most people that are, in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they want to go home. So they get this stuff done well before that time. On their way home, go home and then relax. That's the whole point. You want to manage how you feel when you get home. You want to run around and refresh. Well, thank you. It's easy. I just told the truth. Yeah.
How similar is your business to the one that's over by Shopping Town Mall? And I can't think of the name of it right now.
What's that?
So Loud Pack Exotics, are you talking in terms of size or style? Well, so I went and checked it out and I took notes and how many people were there. I went in, I checked the whole thing out, and I agree with you about the clientele. Like I made notes in my phone about all the things. So I have a visual of that and I want to compare
I'll
it.
speak to it. I don't want to disparage anybody, but we're far different. We're night and day. Even in England, we allow 3 people in the showroom tops, max at a time.
Oh.
Everybody talks to bartender, Just Breathe. There is no, you just mull around and walk around and do stuff. We're not looking for that, right? The original plan for dispensaries, you guys, was you're supposed to check them at the door and then walk them in and get them to a bartender that could talk with them about the things they needed. Create a relationship and build your database that way. So that's something we've always done from jump. Some of the other stores that are bigger have a need to push as many people in as they can because they want to flip as quick as they can. I don't believe in that theory. I don't think it does anything for the store. For us, it's a 90-day difference. We have a small number of folks, and then we work on building relationships with those people, and that's how we built our business, our model.
So to your point, if you only take 3 people at a time to check them and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a waiting time?
Well, there's just sometimes what happens, we don't really have to have one because what we're seeing, we're averaging no more than a customer every 12 minutes. Right? We knew that we could get them out the door at maybe 6.5.
If you get popular.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, but as you're there longer,
I don't,
you might pick up.
I mean, it's something we could look at.
We have a small section where people could sit and that's what we encouraged when there were people in the
And I'm
shop.
thinking more about, I'm thinking more about the parking. We were looking, so Jamie and I were looking, at the RT zone parking, which is a lot, which is very vague as far as how much parking and what you guys have on your site plan is the required parking for RT, but this is all new in that zone as far as when we changed it for retail. And so looking at the retail parking, it was 1 space every 100 square feet. So I just wouldn't wanna limit you guys on the parking, again, like, and the amount of employees that you have at once.
But I think it's
Sure, and it's kind of what I was alluding to is, we have a plan, I could turn on the layer, you'll see it. There's actually another, I think, 6 parking spaces right here. We would have to take down the gentleman's fence in his driveway, which is on our property. And still there'd be a buffer of a few feet, like maybe some arborvitae or something. nice fence. So that is available. It's not as though the site is so pinned in, it's not available. If you'd like, maybe what we can do is show it as bank parking. And then that way, if it becomes an issue and the code enforcement officer says, hey, you got a problem here, we have to go back and put that parking in, we'll go ahead and do it.
Number of employees usually at the site are.
Right, so,
I think such as two.
Yeah, so some of that was in here, and all of that information, like hours of operation is in the
yeah, so here's some things.
Sure. That's what we're here for.
Within,
How do we get closer?
within this zone and retail, keeping that all in mind and everything, some of the things going on, we'll start with the lot coverage, similar to what we talked about with the property before you. The lot coverage in RT is 35%. So we know the lot coverage, well, I guess it depends on, again, the amount of parking. So probably have to go to ZBA
If we
for the lot
increase
coverage.
it, if we increase to, yeah, you know, it's a tricky one. If you look at- If you look at the site, and if it was a typical site, our property line would be somewhere over here,
Right,
you know, we were,
yeah, and that's
we're
why,
pre-existing
yeah,
over.
I don't anticipate it being an issue, but it would need to go through that process. And kind of deciding on the amount of parking so that you don't limit your business. I mean, how many employees will be there? Two to three? Okay, so then you got five spaces, so then
No, we don't have to have.
if you have 3 employees and then only 5 spaces, that would be 2 customers. You know, I just don't wanna limit, I don't want you guys to limit yourselves with parking and we don't want people parking elsewhere. The other thought for the lot coverage, is this,
That's DOT mainly, right
Yeah.
now, in the front.
in the front of the building,
I could
maybe
check with
turning that
DOT and see
into
if it's like-
grass might be a good
sure,
thing.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it would go with the characteristics
yeah,
of the
it wasn't like we're
neighborhood.
gonna stripe this driveway, we're gonna literally take all this asphalt,
Okay,
stone
and then on
out,
the other
and
side,
all this, you
yeah.
know, and then there's a sidewalk here, I would connect these two,
Okay.
I missed it, but I would connect these two, and I put some shrubbery in there,
Right, sure.
some landscape.
That would be good, yeah, if you
Yeah.
can show that, because I think
Yeah.
that. you
And,
know,
and the thing is, I think I'd like to
And that would be good to go to the ZBA with as well, but once you determine the desire, the parking and the lot coverage determination.
Greg, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It shows the property owner is Mark Willis. Do you have a lease? Yes. With him?
Yeah.
Yes, they
For how
do.
long?
I think it's 5 years with no options, 5.
5, option for 5 more.
With an option.
What about? The other question is, how far are you from your nearest neighbor in the R1 zone?
Our neighbor is
Your question.
William Nicholson.
No, but he's talking about the resident, the R1 zone.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I can't remember that.
I'm saying the other way. Nicholson.
The other way, the property on the other, so
East.
if we're looking,
This parcel, north, so like this parcel here, I know it comes out, takes a big chunk here.
You're on the north side.
That's a north side, yeah.
yeah, so William Nicholson's on the west side of the
They
property.
may all be RT already.
Yeah. The one on the east side is I believe it's
All
a
are.
It's the property that you would have to, that they would have to take their fence down. Is that Williams?
No, it's the same one, actually, that property, the one with the fence encroachments on the right side, is the same one that owns the land from the back that we're technically encroaching on their property. So that's all.
So it's kind of, they're aware that this.
So it's like, it's been like that for a while, I'm not sure how long it has, but yeah.
So here's a crazy idea. I also feel that the parking could be a little bit thin. You could probably do, I mean, just from what I looked at the other place, and it sounds like that's a bigger place, but, you know, if you've got say 3 employees, and you've got 3 customers at a time, that's 6, and, you know, you can't always count on a handicap being used, so that doesn't leave you that many in. I know it's an effort to do, but in order to do it right, it might make sense to approach that neighbor and ask if you could buy a pit, right? And that's obviously involves attorneys and surveyors and time and all of that, but, you know, restoring everything that's within the right of way to, and you can't say restore, because it's paved now, but putting that all back, you know, obviously that, I think, is a given, that that's gonna have to happen. I would ask you to go back through this checklist again. You know, signage, landscaping, grading, stormwater, even if it's not full-blown SWIP level, drainage report level stuff. Here's where we're shedding it to, and it's not a problem, that kind of thing. Just like you do for anything less than an acre, anything, you know, like the city.
Yep.
You know, those kinds of things, I think, that, will be really important. Lighting in the parking lot. I know I read that there's enough, so I think it was this project, there was like, well, there's enough lighting around that it should be fine, but, this is somewhere where people are gonna feel more safe coming if there's solid parking lot lighting and wall packs and all that kind of stuff. And is this a historic building? Anybody know?
It only looks historic.
Okay, fair.
I don't think it's actually registered.
But, you know, DOT would, I assume they'll want that, that drainage, you know, I don't know what they call it, the concrete thing.
Oh, gutters?
Yes,
Stuff.
everybody loves those.
Yes.
But they have
Carbon
provided
tax.
it along that section of the road and other projects. And, you know, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing that
Yeah,
out.
I don't know, those are all excellent. Excellent comments. And we will, and I can give you my initial thoughts, but they may change the parking lot layout. There's 2 wall packs here, whether we can get those to illuminate, you know, if parking stays in this kind of configuration, I could probably get those to light up the parking lot enough so that they're also kind of low, if not
Tough
out.
for the residential.
Exactly, we want to be precise. So, and then there's an existing sign in the front, the frame of one, that they're not looking to get any bigger than that. It's just a matter of.
Did you check the sign code? Is it an allowed size?
Pretty good.
No. Good one.
That was
Good
We've done this dance before.
But we need to know the sign dimensions and
We need to see a picture of it and the whole,
picture, like,
like,
So
I mean, I think I've seen it,
we'll
but
need more,
we need
we'll
to
need more.
Oh, yeah,
Grant,
no.
it might be like a letter report more than anything, stating where it's gonna go, because to be perfectly frank with you, even if we did add another 5 spaces, we're still reducing the amount of permeable.
oh, for
asphalt.
sure, oh, yeah, I think it's,
So, I don't wanna go full blown grant study.
No, but just saying, the water's not heading
Oh,
into the front door, like, just
We'll have,
the
we'll have
basics.
topography on there,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. This is kind of a quick and dirty, let's
Yeah.
get in front of them, make sure we have it easy to come back again, sort of stuff. So, looks like we've got some questions to deal with, and
Back
at least
to
the
the
board
sign.
is receptive to it.
yeah, back to the sign real quick, like dimensions, if it's lit.
We just use the existing sign that was there.
Yeah, that's actually.
I understand, but we
I
need
think
to
we can-
see,
No
like,
problem.
no,
Sure.
take that right now.
We just got these proposals like at the end of last week, that's why it's not included in.
Oh, I thought you were saying you had it.
This would have to come with an official submission.
So we're not
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
sue you
they're
in
gonna-
Article
yeah.
78 for the sign. Because we had to see the meeting.
I mean, yeah, if you could include
Actual
that in
sign
the
was
next
actually
submission.
on the building from the last 10 years.
Was
Will
this
it be lit
approved, was it
at night?
approved by New York
The
State?
sign is,
Oh, yeah,
Like backlit?
yeah,
The sign is
100%.
backlit, that's just what we came into. There was the old Penn City insurance sign
Right.
that was like super bright white.
Yeah,
So the black, I would imagine would dim it a bit more.
Right.
I don't know what it looks like, but you got one
Oh,
step.
yeah.
That's right.
That's right. You can't do anything, you can't put any kind of images on there, or cartoonish, or
That's why.
anything showing the flower, that's what we did it like that.
It's very tasteful. My comment is that we would wanna see like a permanent sign, not a banner with grommets that are screwed into the thing. Like,
Correct.
Yeah, I will say, for example, I know this is RT zone, it's not RM, but they're similar, and this is like an RT zone. And we just did, the Botar Law offices on Route 5, and, so similar idea, like, I think, like, what we did there is they do a smaller monument sign out front, like, you're gonna grass that
Yeah,
front
I
area.
was trying to feel the
Well,
on that.
we can't.
Oh, right away, right away.
Yeah.
They won't love it.
Okay.
I don't think so, that might be that guy.
Yeah, does this have the dimension, 8x4? Okay, so we'll have to look at this and see, you know, again, with the.
I don't think it needs code, I think it's.
We'll look
Like,
at that,
yeah.
I have not even looked at the sign.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So I'm gathering that we're gonna touch base with DOT. The board appears to want more parking. Couple more spaces. And then holding it as a reserve or something. Just realize there's space to put.
Maybe finding out if you can buy some land.
We'll explore it, yeah. We floated that idea. You know, those things get complicated because you got banks.
Flood zone's back there too, I
You know, everything, it's not even money, it's trying to get the transfers through
Oh,
a
yeah.
mortgage. Which is, you know, nightmare.
But it's hard to say because I don't have a lot of experience. I don't know what it is, of knowing exactly like you do, how many people you need it until you're here. You had a test run, but so having a good amount, and then I don't see a problem with big people, but I'm just one person. But it's something.
Yeah, can I touch on like the customer in and out, right? Okay. We were open from December 17th to December 31st. That is the peakest season of cannabis sales.
Two questions. Your customers were parked in front of the.
Yeah, they probably parked everywhere.
No, they didn't park in front.
Mainly on the
No, we
side
put
where
stakes.
entrance was, yeah.
Yeah, no one parked in front of the building.
So
So
you see a car on the
You
floor
don't
out there
know
in
that
front of the building.
Yeah.
That was the insurance agent. No, but today it does run into here, you know what I'm saying, this is all parking area. Here, we're, you know, if we put a car here, we can't actually back out with it, you know.
I mean, the other thing is, right, the parking has to meet code. It's code, and finds out that these 50 cars a day,
Right.
who aren't gonna come in,
Right,
they're just
right.
gonna drive away.
Right now, I have to move, the 35% we meet the code easily.
Right, parks across the street, people that own that are gonna tow
Right.
them.
Yeah, I
I don't think you want it.
We never
I
did
was
that.
just thinking because of the retail requirements, because it is retail, whether or not, so just to keep it in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just one other like added point of like cannabis industry and what happens, right? Very few times did we have one car pull in with one person. Folks are coming with their friends, they're coming in groups of 2 or 3. I saw a lot of sons coming with their fathers, daughters coming with their mothers, right? There were very few people who pulled in and it was one person in a car. If we had 4 people in the store at one time, there was 2 cars in the parking lot. Very abnormal for someone. So,
I did notice that in my visit to the other place. It was mostly older people and a lot of caregivers getting stuff for their people. And young professionals.
I drive, it's on my way home from work, I drive by all the time. It's busy.
But, and I did write how many, I was there on a Friday at lunchtime in May. I'm not gonna give you all the details, and I drove it and all that. There were 8 cars.
Yeah, so think about the size of his operation versus ours. It's like-
And there's 2 more opening up, not far from
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I think if
They're
we're
out
thinking
there.
about it, I think it's, maybe just to help you, we could gauge this board, because as part of our T zone, we have, the planning board can suggest that there's a need for more parking, or feel like there's a need, or we can think of the retail, so
Well, we're
maybe-
not even at the minimum is the problem, we're not gonna even talk about more.
Yeah.
Right, on a per square footage basis, there's not enough, right?
What is it?
Well, it's 200 square
For the
feet
200.
per floor space.
Oh, it's
Right,
for the
we have 700,
But not for the- yeah. But as a, like, are we saying as a board that we want them to put together a plan for more parking, or are we like, this is good, and we're,
I like the idea.
because I don't want them to go
I
back.
don't know, but there's nowhere to make it.
Yeah.
I think to try to get more parking is a good move. You show a bank on your neighbor's side where he's approaching at your property. So in case something happens in the future, they have to go ahead with.
I don't think we can do that.
Well, no, it's our property.
It's his property.
It's our property.
Well, I guess
See,
that's
see, so what
The
happens?
neighbor's house you own too?
No, but the property line is right here.
Oh, no, I see that, but.
So this, half their driveway is this whole fenced area. You know, without, if that wasn't the fenced driveway, we put the parking there, we showed it there. And then we pulled it back, basically, they said, we don't need it, and we're not gonna sit here, you know,
Right.
go and tear down neighbors'
Can
fence.
I suggest that we're a planning board, we're not a group of advisors? Let them take care of the business, let us take care of helping them get their business going. They think 5 spaces is enough.
Well, we just figured out that 6.
6 is enough.
I'll give you 6, 6 is done.
So it's 5.33, so it has to be 6. So,
That's it. 6 we can do.
Can I ask too, is just because lighting got brought up and stuff too? I think like one of the things that makes property attractive is you want visibility, right? I think more what we were going to do is a lighting from across the street. It illuminates the front of the building.
Yeah, that's.
Like from a security perspective and stuff.
We've got 2 existing wall packs.
Okay,
One-
can you do
one-
some,
one-
what's
there's
that whole
only
metrics plan?
I'll see if I can figure out what lights they are. That's the hardest part. If I can figure out what
oh,
lights
they're
they are.
existing.
Yeah, they're existing, and if they're not like a nice LED, we'll change them out with something nice.
Yeah,
And that way it's easier for me to do like.
Right, are they on at night right now, that if we drive by, we'll see?
they're not on, only I think only the one light above the door is on. There's also another one of those lights on the back of the building that had been on when we started, and then William sort of stopped over and was like, this one's sort of like a little obnoxious in our backyard, so we turned that one off. And looking through all of our cameras, we're still able to see, visibly what we need to see from a security standpoint. So we just have kept that one on the back off, so it's just the 2 on the driveway side with the one above the main entrance as well.
The one for backside is like a odd light, but there's no, it's all concrete on that side of the building, there's no windows.
We'll wanna see a photometrics plan.
Yep, not a problem.
Property.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll get you extra space, because what I'll do is I'll move this striped area to here, so that'll give you actually a better ramp to get up, and we'll do it that way.
Both sides of the entrance are gonna have some kind of landscaping plan?
Nothing here.
No.
No,
The,
here there will be though, in this area.
And grass?
Yeah, with grass, we'll,
Grass,
yeah, we'll,
just to be in conformance with the rest of the neighborhood, right? Because that's one of the things
yeah,
about the special use
yeah.
permit is.
yeah, if you go right now, it's literally whatever, 100 feet of just solid asphalt.
Yeah.
I
We'll
think that,
reduce down, we'll put some bushes,
Yeah.
we'll put some trees that won't interfere with traffic, visibility for people entering next to the driveway, that sort of stuff.
To the next level for site plan, following that paper I keep pulling up, you'll know where to find this. Those are all the things that we'll be looking for, and they'll probably be happy with,
This should be.
For grass, for grass,
I
we
think
don't
they-
ask.
No, I think it'll actually, the bigger problem I see with DOT is the bureaucratic part of the permitting.
Yeah.
Versus, they're gonna look at this and go, great, we get, 100-foot driveway reduced down to a legitimate driveway, the low intensity use, now comes the lawyers and there to, need all the right easements and permits and rights of use and all that, that'll be probably the toughest part of it all. It's not, in some sense, about traffic study or, site distance or anything.
Okay, any other comments?
Are there any architectural, like, are you painting the building? Is it gonna stay the way it is? Is it canopy? You want it to match the sign?
We'll look at that, we'll get back to that. If anything, we'll take the existing, just a picture of the existing and modify it, and show you something or colors or anything. I don't think there's any wholesale changes to.
It's a limestone building.
Yeah, and then the entrance actually is kind of moved a little bit, so I don't really want to come out to the parking lot. Like Cal.
All those things are listed here. Construction sequence and schedule, we'll wanna know that, but do you have any idea? I mean, it sounds like there's more work here, but.
I'm sure you want to be open by Christmas time. We'll start stuff first.
Sounds like that's your biggest time.
We'll hopefully be back, not next meeting, but the meeting after that with, some revisions and a lot more detail.
Yeah.
Try to keep it moving.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
guys,
thank
thanks for the work you've done, and thanks for your patience with everything that we need.
Nope, not a problem.
Thanks.
Thank you. No other business, so. What? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll say it.
Motion made by Rich, second by Marty, all in